Well, it's the middle of May, and that means people are starting to graduate from high school. So I thought I would take a couple minutes to address them and their birds. And first of all, I want to say congratulations to all of you who graduated. Um, if you're watching this and you didn't graduate high school, that's fine too. You can always come back to it. Carolina got a degree. She dropped out and got her degree later and then went on to complete a 4-year college degree. So don't think it's the end of the world, you know. But getting back to the birds, because that's what this channel is primarily about for me anyway. There's a couple of things you're going to want to take into consideration this summer as you prepare to go away to college. And trust me, I'm probably the most stubborn person in the world, and I wouldn't listen to me if it was me. I didn't listen to my parents, when I graduated, and I thought I could do it, and it didn't quite work out how I planned. So here's basically what I'm going to tell you. When you leave for college, unless you're planning on being home every weekend, or you live with your parents and you're going to college, close by, you're going to have to downsize your birds. You might need to get out entirely. You might need to cut down to half of what you got. You might have to cut down to everything except maybe 2 or 3 pairs. And the more honest you are with yourself from the get-go about it, the better off you're going to be. Okay? Now, I had it in my head that I could find me a place and be moved into my own property right out of college. I was going to get a job, get a place. It was only going to be 4 years. And, if I can just get mom and dad to hold on to the birds for me, and I'll come home during the summers and I'll hatch out a few just so I got some young stock coming up every year, I can make it. I can do it. Well, it took me 10 years to get this place. That's 10 years after college. So 14 years out of high school. Okay? Not trying to discourage you. Let me back up a minute. It took me 8 years after college to get the place, and 10 years to actually start breeding anything on the place. Okay? In that time, it has been just difficult decision after difficult decision regarding my flock. There's a lot of stuff that I gave up that I regretted and that I'm probably never going to get back. There's stuff that I just have to ask myself, why did I try to hold on to it for so long? It would have been super easy to get back into them. Another mistake I made during college is there was a well-known breeder of Bantams who called me up one summer and said, I'm too old. I want you to have some of my birds if you'll take over them. And I'd been talking to him back and forth about some color projects he had, and of course I said yes. Well, from the color projects, it ended up being that I took everything he had, including all the other colors he had that weren't really part of the project. And I was like, okay, great. I'm off and running. There's plenty of birds here. I can manage to hatch a few here and there. And by the time I get out of college, I'll be fine. Well, here's what happened in reality. The birds weren't that great of health when I got them. And I got them right before I had to go back for fall semester. And it took us probably a good year or two to get them back to health. And in that time, we lost a boatload of them. And the ones that I had left, I had trouble breeding. They were basically from a bloodline that was a little more pampered than what I expected, and they didn't really like my accommodations, and I wasn't, the project birds were too inbred. I wasn't getting any eggs out of them, and when I was, they were low fertility, and it seemed like whenever I did manage to hatch a few, I'd end up losing them for something or another, just something stupid. And eventually, those color varieties died out. There was 3 or 4 of us who were trying to keep them going. We just couldn't keep them going, and I had the biggest flock of them. And instead of saying, hey, you know what, these other guys have more time and better luck, I'm just going to let them have them. No, I held on to them, and I was stubborn, and it cost them. I mean, you're never going to come across those birds again unless somebody remakes them, plain and simple. And instead of saving money to get an acreage, I'd come home in the summer and I'd hop on the internet and I'd be ordering birds, be like, well, I lost this during the winter, I'm going to order this, and well, hey, that's a good deal on this bloodline, I'm going to buy some of these. And what I should have done is I should have sat down and made a list. And here's the things I'm going to tell you to put on your list. Start off and make your list of everything you have, and I want you to get a head count of them, and male and female, adults and half-grown birds. Okay? You're going to go through that list, and let's say you have Cochin Bantams. Alright? You're going to say, I got 15 Cochin Bantams. Of those, I've got 1 old rooster and 2 old hens, and the rest are young ones. Well, are they hatchery quality or are they show quality? Because if they're hatchery quality, I'd get rid of them. Because you can get better ones later. Because it's basically the most common variety of Cochin that's out there. Now, if you've got something really rare, like you've got a top of the line, I'm not too familiar with the varieties of Cochins and what's rare, so forgive me, but let's say you got a top of the line barred Cochin and you've got 1 pair of them. Well, if they're real hard to come by, you probably want to hold on to those and then take all that time and energy you were putting into your buffs and redirect that to your bards. And even if you only hatch 1 or 2 dozen a year, as long as you keep enough breeding stock back, you're going to be okay. But here's the next part. If you're going to get rid of stuff, like let's say you decide to get rid of your bards, try to get them to somebody who's going to keep working with them, and that you can go back to and get stock from when you're finally settled. There's no guarantees. Something might happen. They might lose the birds. They might sell them. You don't know. But if it's someone you trust and you've known a long while, it increases your odds those birds will still be there when you get out of college. Alright? I've held on to birds personally for people 2 and 3 years. It's 1 or 2 birds in the flock. I'll just hold on to it. And then sometimes they want them and sometimes they back out. I've got a rooster in the brood pen right now that a guy hit me up about 2 years ago wanting to buy him. And, well, I should say he wanted him. Once he found out he was going to have to pay for him, then he got a little, he started slacking off about wanting him so bad. So finally I just said, I'm just going to hold on to the bird. I'm going to use it. But the other step is, if you've got enough of them, spread them out to different people. Because even if one person gets out and one person gets theirs eaten by coons or something, you might have 1 or 2 other people who can still help you out when you get back into them. Alright? Now, another thing you're going to have to take into consideration, and this is something that I've had issues with in my own family. My mom day in, day out. She's the one who's taking care of my birds for me. When I was in college, after I got out of college and moved into an apartment, and there's going to be tension there because I'm super particular about how things go, and she's got her way of doing things and I got mine. So try to keep your numbers low and your pen building to a minimum and your chick hatching to a minimum to make the chores easy for your parents. They got plenty of other stuff going on. If you've got younger siblings that are growing up, they're going to be getting into different activities of their own, and it's not fair to your parents to spend all their time taking care of your birds for you when you're out experiencing college. And if I had to do it over again, I probably would have cut down to 1 or 2 bloodlines game fowl and 1 or 2 colors of Polish from the start, instead of dragging it out as long as I did. The last big sell-off I did was 2011, I believe, in a show in Michigan. I took over 400 birds there. And I sold out of varieties that I regret selling out to this day, because as far as I know, nobody kept working with them. There's still a few around, but they've always just kind of been a back burner thing for the people who have them. And I could probably get some, but I'd have to work on them again, and then it's just a question of, well, right now I'm building the farm. I'm working 6, sometimes 7 days a week, and I leave for work at 5:40 in the morning, and I get home some nights as late as 9:30 at night. So I got to rely on Carolina to do the chores. So there again, I can't have all the projects I had when I was a kid. When I was in junior high, man, I tell you, I ran over 1,000 birds on the farm back home. I had ducks, pigeons, peacocks, guineas, you name it. And I didn't have to pay the feed bill either, because my dad worked at a dairy farm and the boss knew us kids pretty well, so part of Dad's pay was that he could bring feed home for me out of the bunks when they'd clean the bunks. So, keep in mind, your parents and your siblings probably aren't as gung-ho about the birds as you are, but they'll take care of them because they love you. But reciprocate the love by not tying them down by expecting them to take care of 1,000 birds. And don't expect them to know what everything is inside and out either. That's something that me and my mom to this day still have problems with, because I'll say, well, I need a hen that's this bloodline, this color. She has no clue what I'm talking about. She just likes them because they're pretty, and that's fine. So record keeping and leg banding is how we solve that problem. I'll say, okay, I need, case in point, I put up a hen for a benefit auction. And I said, all right, the guy's going to get a hen that has a green leg band number 8. And then she'll know which one to go get. So those are just a couple of things to keep in mind, I guess. The other thing too is with college, you're there to get a degree, and if you're worried about your flock all the time and you're running home all the time, you're not truly focusing on your degree, and you're only hurting yourself in the short term, but you're also hurting your flock in the long term, because if you can't get that degree to get that high paying job that you want, guess what? You're going to have a hard time raising the number of birds you want when you do get your place, because you ain't going to be making the money that you need to pay for it. Not unless you're some kind of marketing magician with the animals you got, which I certainly am not. I hope that this video isn't too depressing for you. It's meant to be advice from someone who was given advice, didn't listen, and had to do things the hard way. So again, do yourself a favor. Think long and hard about the ones you really, really like and cut down to just those. And do your best to just maintain an honest dialogue with yourself and your parents about your flock and the future of your flock, and you know, do what's best for everybody involved, especially yourself. All right? So, again, best of luck to all the graduates. And here's to having your own place one day where you can raise whatever the heck you want.